The sky burned orange and red as another city fell to dust. Smoke rose high into the air, and the sounds of war filled every corner of the dying world. Vila stood at the top of a broken building and watched the destruction below. Her 4 eyes moved slowly across the battlefield, and a small smile appeared on her gray face. She was tall, much taller than most of her kind. Her body was covered in natural armor, hard, dark plates that protected her like a second skin. 2 long arms hung at her sides and 2 smaller arms rested near her chest. In her main hands, she held a weapon that glowed with blue energy. It was a blade, curved and deadly, and it had taken more lives than she could count. Vila was a warrior of the Empire. Her people had ruled the galaxy for over 10,000 years. They were strong. They were fast. They healed quickly from wounds that would kill other species. And most importantly, they never lost. She had fought in 47 wars. She had walked on worlds covered in ice, fire, and poison. She had killed soldiers, generals, and kings. Every enemy that stood before the Empire eventually fell. It was simply the way of things. Behind her, a young soldier approached carefully. His name was, and he was still new to war. His armor plates were smooth and unmarked, not yet scratched by battle. He stopped a safe distance from Vila and waited. "Speak," she said without turning around. "Commander Vila, we have received new reports from the Central Fleet," said. His voice was nervous. Everyone was nervous around Vila. "The Coalition has added a new species to their forces." Vila let out a short laugh. The Coalition was a group of weaker species that had joined together to fight against the Empire. They had been fighting for 300 years, and they had not won a single major battle. Every time they lost, they found new allies. And every time, those allies died just like the rest. "Another species," Vila said. "How wonderful. What are they called?" "They call themselves humans, Commander." "Humans?" Vila tasted the word. It meant nothing to her. "What do we know about them?" Pulled out a small device and read from it. "They come from a small planet called Earth. It is located in a distant arm of the galaxy, far from the main trade routes. They have only been traveling between stars for about 200 years. 200 years, Vila finally turned to look at. Her 4 eyes showed her amusement. "We have been among the stars for 15,000 years, and they think they can fight us." "The reports say they are. Unusual, Commander." "Unusual how?" "Looked uncomfortable. Their bodies are soft, they have no natural armor, they cannot see in the dark, they cannot breathe underwater. They die easily from cold, heat, and radiation. They need to eat and drink often, and they must sleep for many hours each day." Vila stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed. It was a deep, loud laugh that echoed across the broken rooftop. Some soldiers below looked up in surprise. They had never heard their commander laugh like that before. "This is a joke," Vila said. "The Coalition has become so desperate that they are sending soft, weak creatures to die, creatures that need to sleep, that cannot survive without constant care." "It seems so, Commander." Vila shook her head. She had seen many species try to stand against the Empire. Some were strong, some were fast, some had powerful weapons or clever minds, but all of them had fallen in the end. And now the Coalition was sending creatures that sounded like they would die if you simply waited long enough. "How many humans are joining the fight?" she asked. "About 50,000, Commander. They are being sent to the front lines on several planets." 50,000. Vila turned back to look at the burning city below. "That is not even enough to slow us down. They will be dead within a month." She thought about the humans for another moment, then pushed them from her mind. They were not worth thinking about. She had more important things to consider, like the next world that needed to fall. The war continued. Days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months. The Empire pushed forward on every front. Cities burned. Armies fell. The Coalition fought hard, but they could not stop the advance. Vila led her forces from battle to battle. She was always at the front, always the first to charge into enemy lines. Her blade sang through the air, cutting down anyone who stood before her. She had earned her title as the greatest warrior of the Empire through blood and fire, and she proved it again and again. Sometimes she heard reports about the humans. They were fighting on several planets now. Some reports said they were dying quickly, as expected, but other reports were strange. "Commander," one of her officers said one evening, "there is something odd in the latest battle reports." "What is it?" "The humans on 4. They were supposed to fall 3 weeks ago, but they are still fighting." Vila looked up from her maps. "Still fighting? How is that possible? Their position was surrounded." "We do not know, Commander. The reports say they refuse to surrender. They keep attacking even when they are outnumbered, even when they are wounded. They just keep fighting." Vila felt something strange in her chest. It was not fear. She did not know fear, but it was something close to curiosity. In all her years of war, she had seen many species fight bravely, but bravery did not matter when you were surrounded and dying. Every species eventually accepted defeat. But these humans did not seem to understand that. "Interesting," she said quietly. "Perhaps I should see these humans for myself." She made a decision that night. She would travel to 4. She would see these strange, soft creatures who did not know how to give up. And then she would kill them herself, and the galaxy would forget they ever existed. Vila gathered her best soldiers and prepared her ship. As she walked through the metal halls, she felt a strange excitement building inside her. She did not know why. They were just humans, weak, fragile things that should not last long against warriors. But something deep inside her whispered that this fight would be different. She ignored the whisper and stepped onto her ship. In a few days, she would reach 4, and then she would see what these humans were really made of. The planet 4 was a world of gray stone and red dust. Mountains rose high into the purple sky, and deep valleys cut through the land like old wounds. There was no beauty here, only rock, dust, and war. Vila's ship landed in the middle of a military camp. The ground shook as the massive vessel touched down, and soldiers quickly moved to clear a path. When the doors opened and Vila stepped out, everyone stopped what they were doing and stood at attention. She walked through the camp without speaking. Her 4 eyes scanned everything: the weapons, the soldiers, the defenses. Everything was in order. The army was ready for battle as always. A senior officer named hurried to meet her. He was old with many scars on his armor plates. He had fought in wars before Vila was born. "Commander Vila," he said, bowing his head, "we are honored by your presence." "Save your honors," Vila replied. "Tell me about the humans." His face changed. Something passed through his eyes, something that looked almost like worry. Vila noticed it immediately. "The humans are difficult, Commander." "Difficult? You have 10,000 soldiers on this planet. The humans have less than 500. How can they be difficult?" Led her toward a tall platform where she could see the battlefield. In the distance, Vila could see a small city. It was surrounded by forces on all sides. Smoke rose from several buildings, and the sounds of gunfire echoed across the valley. "We have attacked that city 12 times, said. Each time we push deep into their lines. Each time they push us back." "Impossible." "I thought so too, Commander, but I have seen it with my own eyes." Paused. His voice became quiet. "They do not fight like any species I have faced before." Vila studied the distant city. It was small and broken, barely standing. There were holes in the walls and entire sections had collapsed. It should have fallen long ago. "Tell me what you have learned about them," she ordered. Nodded. "They are exactly as the report said. Soft bodies, no armor, no natural weapons. They cannot see well in darkness. They are slow compared to us and much weaker physically." "Then why are they still alive?" "Because they refuse to accept that they should be dead." Looked out at the city. "In our first attack we killed half of them in 1 hour. We thought the battle was over, But then the survivors attacked us, not to escape, to fight back. They climbed over the bodies of their fallen friends and kept shooting. Vila said nothing. She waited for him to continue. In our second attack, we captured one of their positions. We found a wounded human inside. Both of his legs were broken. He could not walk or run. But when our soldiers entered, he was still shooting. He killed 3 of our warriors before we stopped him. One wounded human killed 3 soldiers. Yes, Commander, and that is not unusual. The humans fight until their bodies stop working, not until they are defeated, until they are physically unable to continue. Vila felt that strange feeling again in her chest. It was stronger now and harder to ignore. She had fought against brave enemies before. She had seen soldiers die for their causes, but this was different. This sounded like something beyond bravery. "Show me," she said. "I want to see them fight." Led her to the front lines. The soldiers had built strong positions around the city, with heavy weapons and thick walls. From here, Vila could see the human defenses clearly. They were poor defenses. Broken vehicles had been pushed together to form walls. Pieces of metal and stone had been stacked to create cover. It looked like something children would build, not real soldiers. Against weapons, these defenses would last only seconds. But the humans inside those defenses had lasted for weeks. As Vila watched, something happened. A door opened in one of the human walls, and a single figure stepped out. Vila raised a viewing device to her eyes and looked closer. It was a human male. He was shorter than I, with dark hair and light brown skin. He wore simple armor that covered his chest and shoulders but left much of his body exposed. In his hands, he carried a weapon, something long and black that Vila did not recognize. He walked forward slowly toward the lines, alone. "What is he doing?" Vila asked. "We do not know, Commander. Sometimes they do this. One of them will come out alone. We think they are trying to draw our fire to find our positions." Vila watched the human walk. His steps were calm and steady. He did not run. He did not hide. He just walked forward into the open space between the 2 armies. Then the shooting started. Soldiers opened fire from 3 different positions. Blue energy bolts flew through the air, tearing into the ground around the human. Dust and rock exploded everywhere. Any normal creature would have run. Any sane creature would have tried to find cover. But the human just kept walking. He raised his weapon and fired back. The sound was loud and harsh, nothing like the smooth hum of weapons. He shot at one position, then another, moving slowly but never stopping. A bolt hit him in the shoulder. Vila saw the flash, saw him stumble, but he did not fall. He kept his feet under him and kept walking, kept shooting. Another bolt hit his leg. This time he did fall, dropping to one knee. But even on his knees, he raised his weapon and kept firing. Vila could not look away. She had seen courage before. She had seen soldiers stand and fight when they should have run, but she had never seen anything like this. This human was dying. He had to know he was dying, but he kept fighting as if death did not matter. Finally, a third bolt hit him in the chest. He fell backward onto the red dust. His weapon dropped from his hands. But then, impossibly, he moved again. He rolled onto his side and reached for his weapon. His movements were slow and weak, but he was still trying, still fighting. Vila felt something inside her freeze. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was something she had never felt before, and she did not have a word for it. "Commander," his voice seemed far away. "Should we send soldiers to confirm the kill?" Before Vila could answer, another door opened in the human defenses. More humans came out, 5 of them, running low and fast. They reached their fallen comrade and pulled him back toward the walls. The soldiers fired at them, but the humans used their own bodies as shields, protecting the wounded man even as bolts tore into them. 2 of the rescuers fell, but the other 3 kept going, dragging the first human with them. They disappeared behind the walls and the shooting stopped. Vila lowered her viewing device. Her hands were shaking slightly. She did not know why. "What was that human's name?" she asked quietly. "Checked his records. Our intelligence says his name is Wu. He is one of their squad leaders." "Wu," Vila repeated. The name felt strange in her mouth. "I want to know everything about him, everything about all of them." She turned and walked away from the front lines. Behind her, the battle continued. Guns fired, soldiers died, but Vila barely heard any of it. All she could see was that human, Wu, falling to his knees and still fighting, still reaching for his weapon, still refusing to give up. For the first time in her long life, Vila wondered if she had finally found an enemy worth respecting. 3 days passed after Vila first saw Wu walk across the battlefield. In those 3 days, she ordered 2 more attacks on the human positions. Both attacks failed. The first attack came at night. Vila thought the humans would be weak in darkness. The reports said they could not see well without light. But when her soldiers charged forward, they found the humans waiting. The humans had placed small lights around their defenses, turning the night into day. They had also set traps, explosives hidden in the ground that tore through armor like paper. 50 soldiers died in that attack. 50 warriors, each one stronger and faster than any human. All of them dead, killed by creatures that needed to sleep and eat and drink. The second attack came at dawn. Vila sent 300 soldiers at once, hopping to overwhelm the human defenses with numbers. Her soldiers pushed deep into the city, fighting through street after street. For a moment, it seemed like victory was certain. Then the humans did something unexpected. Instead of running, they moved toward the soldiers. They came from every direction, from buildings, from tunnels, from holes in the ground. They appeared behind lines and started shooting. It was chaos. The soldiers were trained to fight in formation, to work together as one unit. But the humans fought like wild animals, alone, unpredictable, impossible to track. One human would appear, shoot several times, then disappear before anyone could catch him. Another would jump from a window, fire his weapon while falling, and roll behind cover before he hit the ground. By the end of the battle, the army had lost over 100 more soldiers. The humans had lost less than 20. It should have been impossible. Vila watched the whole thing from her command position. She did not speak. She did not give orders. She just watched, her 4 eyes following every movement of the battle. And through it all, she watched Wu. He was everywhere. She saw him on the eastern wall, shooting down at soldiers trying to climb up. She saw him in the western streets, pulling wounded humans to safety. She saw him in the center of the city, giving orders to other fighters. He moved differently than the other humans. There was a calmness to him, even in the middle of battle. Other humans looked afraid even when they fought bravely, but Wu showed no fear at all. His face was like stone, hard, focused, unbreakable. "How is he still alive?" Vila asked. She was not really asking, she was asking herself. "I saw him take 3 direct hits, and he would need days to heal from those wounds." Checked his reports. "Our medical officers have studied human biology, Commander. They say humans do not heal as fast as we do, but they have something else. They can ignore their injuries." "Ignore them?" "Yes, their minds can block out pain, not completely but enough to keep fighting. They call it adrenaline, I think. When they are in danger, their bodies release chemicals that make them stronger and faster for a short time. It also stops them from feeling pain." Vila thought about this. It was a strange ability to hurt yourself by ignoring your own body's warnings. It seemed foolish, dangerous, but watching Wu fight, she understood why it mattered. A warrior who was badly wounded would stop fighting, not because of fear, but because the body knew it needed to heal. It was the smart choice, the safe choice. But humans did not make the safe choice. They made the choice that kept them in the fight, even if it killed them later. "There is something else, Commander," said carefully. "Something the humans have that we do not." "What is it?" They call it hope. Vila turned to look at him. Hope, I know this word. It means wanting something good to happen. Yes, but for humans it is more than that. They do not just want good things to happen. They believe good things will happen, even when everything says otherwise. Even when they are surrounded and dying and have no chance of victory, they still believe they can win. That is not hope, that is stupidity. Perhaps, his voice was quiet, but it makes them fight harder than any enemy I have ever faced. They do not fight because they think they will win. They fight because they cannot accept losing. That night Vila could not sleep. She lay in her quarters, staring at the metal ceiling, thinking about the humans, thinking about Wu. She had been fighting wars for over 200 years. She had killed so many enemies that she had lost count. Every species she faced had the same reaction to the army: fear, then resistance, then defeat. It was always the same pattern. But the humans did not follow the pattern. They had been fighting on for almost 2 months now. They were surrounded. They had lost more than half of their original force. They had no hope of rescue. The nearest coalition fleet was months away. Any other species would have surrendered by now. Any other species would have accepted that the fight was over. But the humans kept fighting. Every day they came out of their broken city and attacked positions. Every day they died, and every day the survivors went back out and did it again. It made no sense. It broke every rule of war that Vila knew. You did not keep fighting when you could not win. You did not waste lives for nothing. You accepted defeat, saved who you could, and waited for a better day. The humans did not seem to know these rules, or maybe they knew them and chose to ignore them. Vila got up from her bed and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was dark and full of stars. Somewhere out there, on a small planet called Earth, more humans were being born. More humans were living their soft, fragile lives. More humans were growing up without natural armor, without sharp claws, without any of the things that should be necessary to survive in the galaxy. And yet they survived. Not just survived, they thrived. They spread across their world and into space. They found other species and made friends with them. They joined a war against the most powerful empire in the galaxy, even though they had no chance of winning. Why? What drove them to keep pushing forward when everything said they should stop? Vila thought about Wu again. She remembered him walking across the battlefield, alone, against the entire army. She remembered him falling and getting back up. She remembered him reaching for his weapon even as his body failed him. There was something in his eyes that she had never seen before in any enemy. It was not courage, she had seen courage. It was not anger, she had seen anger too. It was something deeper, something older. It was the look of someone who would never, ever give up. Not because he thought he would win, but because giving up was simply not something he knew how to do. Vila made a decision. She would not send more soldiers to die against these humans. She would not waste lives trying to break something that refused to be broken. She would go herself. She would walk into that ruined city and find Wu. She would look into his eyes and understand what made him different. And then she would kill him herself, face to face, warrior to warrior. It was the only way to end this. It was the only way that felt right. Tomorrow, the greatest warrior of the empire would meet the human who did not know how to surrender, and only one of them would walk away. The morning sun rose over painting the gray mountains with pale gold light. Vila stood at the edge of the camp, looking at the ruined human city in the distance. Her armor was polished and ready. Her blade hummed quietly at her side, eager for battle. Stood behind her looking worried. "Commander, please reconsider. Let me send a team with you. You should not go alone." "I am not alone," Vila said. "I have never been alone. The strength of the empire goes with me." She started walking toward the city. Behind her, the soldiers watched in silence. Many of them thought they would never see their commander again. The walk took almost an hour. Vila moved slowly, letting the humans see her coming. She wanted them to know she was approaching. She wanted them to have time to prepare, to choose their best warrior to face her. That warrior, she knew, would be Wu. When she reached the outer walls of the city, she stopped and waited. The walls were broken and burned, barely standing. Through the holes she could see movement, humans watching her, pointing weapons at her. "I am Vila," she called out. Her voice was loud and clear. "Commander of the 7th Fleet, greatest warrior of the Empire, I have come to speak with your leader." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a door opened in the wall and a figure stepped out. It was Wu. Vila studied him carefully. He was shorter than she remembered. Humans looked so small when you saw them up close. His dark hair was messy and dirty, and his face was covered in dust and dried blood. He wore the same simple armor she had seen before, but now it was dented and scratched from many battles. But his eyes were exactly as she remembered, dark and calm, with no fear in them. He looked at her the way you might look at a storm approaching, something dangerous but not surprising. "You wanted to speak," Wu said. His voice was quiet but steady. "So speak." Vila felt something shift inside her. She had expected him to tremble. She had expected him to show some sign of fear, facing the greatest warrior of the Empire alone. But he stood before her like an equal, as if his small, soft body and her towering armored form were the same. "I have been watching you," Vila said. "For days I have watched you fight. I have seen you walk into certain death and survive. I have seen you fall and rise again. I do not understand you." Wu's expression did not change. "What is there to understand? Why do you keep fighting? You cannot win. Your people are dying. You are surrounded with no hope of rescue. Any rational creature would surrender and save the lives that remain." "Surrender?" Wu tilted his head slightly. "And then what? Your empire would kill us anyway, or make us slaves, or use us as examples to frighten other species. There is no future in surrender. There is no future in fighting either. You will all die here." "Maybe," Wu nodded slowly. "But we will die standing, we will die fighting, and that matters." Vila felt her hands tighten into fists. "Why? Why does it matter how you die? Dead is dead." For the first time, something changed in Wu's eyes. They became warmer somehow, as if he was looking at something far away that only he could see. "Where I come from," he said, "there is a small town by the sea. My mother lives there. She is old now and her hair has turned white. Every morning she walks to the beach and looks at the water. She tells me the sea reminds her of my father, who was also a soldier. He died in a war, long before your empire ever reached our galaxy." Vila did not understand why he was telling her this, but she did not interrupt. "When I left to join this fight," Wu continued, "my mother did not cry. She just held my hands and looked into my eyes. She said, 'Come home to me.' That was all. Not be careful or stay safe. Just come home." "But you will not come home. You will die here." "You asked me why I keep fighting." Wu's voice was soft now, almost gentle. "It is because my people are waiting for me. My mother is waiting. My friends are waiting. The people I love are watching the sky every night, hopping to see my ship return." He paused, and his eyes met hers directly. "I may die here. That is probably true. But as long as I am fighting, there is a chance, even a small one, that I will see them again. And that chance is worth more to me than my own life. It is worth more than comfort or safety or reason." Vila stood still, unable to speak. She had expected many answers. She had expected him to talk about duty or honor or hatred for the Empire. She had not expected this. "Love, he kept fighting because of love." "That is foolish," she said finally, but her voice was not as strong as before. "Yes," Wu agreed, "it is completely foolish. But humans are foolish creatures. We do things that make no sense. We fight battles we cannot win. We hope for things that will never happen. We love people even when they are far away and we may never see them again." He spread his hands slightly, showing her his empty palms. "This is what we are. We are not strong like you. We are not fast. We cannot heal from wounds or see in the dark. But we have something that your empire does not understand. We have reasons to fight that are bigger than victory." Vila felt something breaking inside her. For 200 years she had believed that strength was everything, that the strong survived and the weak fell. That was the law of the universe. But standing before this small, soft, wounded human, she realized that strength came in many forms. The strength to lift heavy things and kill enemies was one kind, but the strength to keep hopping when hope made no sense, that was another kind entirely. And it was a kind of strength that the Empire did not have. "What is your mother's name?" Vila asked quietly. Wu blinked, surprised by the question. "Her name is, why do you ask?" "Because I want to remember it." Vila reached for her blade. "When I kill you, I will remember the name of the woman who is waiting for you. I will carry that memory as a mark of respect." Wu smiled. It was a sad smile, tired and old, but there was no fear in it. "Then let us finish this," he said. He reached for his own weapon, a simple knife at his belt. It looked like a toy next to Vila's glowing blade. But he held it like he meant to use it. He held it like he thought he could win. And for the first time in her long, violent life, Vila was not certain that she wanted to kill the creature standing before her. The wind blew across the broken city, carrying dust and smoke through the air. Vila and Wu stood facing each other, weapons ready, separated by only a few steps of empty ground. Behind the walls, Vila could feel the human soldiers watching. They had their guns raised, ready to shoot her if she attacked their leader. They would all die if they fired. Her soldiers would destroy them in minutes, but they were ready to do it anyway, ready to die for this one small human man. It was strange, beautiful in a way she had never understood before. "Before we begin," Vila said slowly, "I have one more question." Wu waited, his knife still raised. "In all my years of war, I have never met anyone like you. Your body is wounded. Your people are dying. You have no real chance of victory. And yet you stand here, ready to fight the greatest warrior in the galaxy with nothing but a small blade." She paused, searching for the right words. "What do you see when you look at me? Do you see death? Do you see the end of everything you love?" Wu was quiet for a long moment. Then he lowered his knife, just a little, just enough to show that he was willing to talk instead of fight. "When I look at you," he said, "I see someone who is also far from home. I see someone who has fought so many battles that she has forgotten why she started fighting. I see someone who is very, very tired." Vila felt his words hit her like physical blows. How did he know? How could this soft, short-lived creature see things that she had hidden even from herself? "You are wrong," she said, but her voice was weak. "Am I?" Wu's eyes were gentle. "You came here alone. You walked across a battlefield without an army behind you. You could have sent soldiers to kill me, but instead you came yourself. Why?" Vila did not answer. She could not answer. "I think," Wu continued, "that you came here looking for something. Not victory, you have had plenty of victories. Not blood, you have spilled oceans of blood. Something else. Something that all those victories and all that blood could never give you. What would a human know about what I need?" "I know about emptiness." Wu's voice was sad. "I know about fighting until fighting becomes all you are. I know about winning battles and feeling nothing. Humans are not that different from you, Vila. We just live shorter lives, so we learn these lessons faster." The wind picked up, howling through the broken buildings around them. Somewhere in the distance, a piece of metal fell and crashed against the ground, but neither of them moved. "My father was a soldier," Wu said. "He won many battles, he was called a hero, but when he came home he was not the same person who had left. The war had taken something from him, something he could never get back. He spent his last years sitting by the window, looking at nothing, waiting for death." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I see the same thing in your eyes. You have won too many battles, Vila. You have killed too many enemies, and now you do not know how to do anything else. So you keep fighting, keep killing, hoping that the next victory will finally make you feel something again. Vila's blade trembled in her hand. She wanted to deny it. She wanted to scream that he was wrong, that she was strong, that she was the greatest warrior in the galaxy, and she needed nothing from anyone. But she could not lie to him. For some reason, she could not lie to this dying human who saw right through her armor and into her soul. "What would you have me do?" she asked. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. "Stop fighting, let your people go. My empire would never allow it. They would call me weak. They would destroy me." "I am not asking you to do anything," Wu said. "I am only telling you what I see. What you do with it is your choice." He raised his knife again, ready for whatever came next. Vila looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. She saw his wounds, the blood staining his armor, the exhaustion in his body. She saw that he could barely stand, that every breath must be causing him pain. But she also saw that he was not afraid. Not of her, not of death, not of anything. He had found something worth fighting for, something worth dying for, and that had set him free from fear. In 200 years of war, Vila had never found anything worth dying for. She had fought because fighting was what she did. She had killed because killing was what she was good at. But she had never had a reason beyond duty and glory. She had never had a mother waiting by the sea, looking at the water every morning, hoping to see her child return. Slowly, carefully, Vila lowered her blade. Wu watched her confused. "What are you doing?" "I do not know," Vila admitted, "but I am not going to kill you today." Behind the walls, she heard sounds of surprise from the human soldiers. Some of them lowered their weapons. Others kept them raised, not trusting what they were seeing. "The war is not over," Vila continued. "My empire will send more soldiers. They will keep attacking until this planet falls or until every human here is dead. I cannot stop that." "I know," Wu said. "But today, here between us, I am choosing not to fight." Vila attached her blade to her belt. Her hands felt empty without it. "You have shown me something that I had forgotten existed. You have reminded me that there are things in this universe worth more than victory." She turned and began walking away. Behind her, Wu called out, "Vila." She stopped but did not turn around. "If we meet again on the battlefield, I will fight you. I will try to kill you. That is what war is." "I know. But I want you to know. I am glad we talked. Even enemies can understand each other if they are willing to listen." Vila felt something strange on her face. It took her a moment to realize what it was. She was smiling. She could not remember the last time she had smiled. "Go home, Wu of Earth. Tell your mother you are coming back to her, and if the universe is kind, perhaps you will make it there." She started walking again. The human city grew smaller behind her, and the camp grew larger ahead of her. She did not know what she would tell her soldiers. She did not know what the future would bring. But for the first time in 200 years, she felt something other than emptiness. It was small and fragile, like a tiny flame in a great darkness, but it was there. Hope. She had learned it from a human, a soft, weak, fragile creature who should have died 100 times but refused to stay down. A creature who fought not for victory, but for love. The empire would continue its war. Planets would burn. Soldiers would die. Nothing had really changed in the grand story of the galaxy. But in the small story, the story of one warrior and one human who met on a broken world, everything had changed. And sometimes, the small stories are the ones that matter most. Vila reached the camp and walked past her soldiers without speaking. She went to her quarters, closed the door, and sat in the darkness alone. Then, for the first time since she was a child, the greatest warrior of the empire began to cry. Far away in the ruined city, Wu put away his knife and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, past countless worlds and endless space, his mother was waiting by the sea. He was still breathing. He was still fighting. And as long as those things were true, there was still a chance. That was enough. It had to be enough. He turned and walked back into the city, ready to face whatever tomorrow would bring.